That is the only point where you can let go.
Yeah. Hold on, man. Let me find out who the hell it is I'm actually listening to right now, because I'm always listening to some podcasts and stuff, and I be forgetting to turn them down. What is this? Like Idris Elba now. Superheroes Need Help. The Shop Season 5, Episode 6, full episode uninterrupted. Yeah, people putting out some good podcasts. We got up 611,000, so showing me that there's some space and opportunity out there. And then also shout out Bills vs. the Rams NFL Week 1 on the Hip Hop Sports Channel. We see that that's live and cracking over there. So salute. Plot twist. Hey, K Journey, B1 salute. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, man, I'm just a guy with a sweater on, man. Plot twist, man. This one is spicy. I already know it because, as you can tell, man, it's been one of the moments I had to go into my therapy. I had to go into my therapy on that one. Like, I couldn't read no other author but the ones that I've already interacted with. And for that, yeah, I know the last show ended a bit abruptly. Salute, thank you. She said Chicago Live finally. And now I'm wondering, do I do the update for part 1, 2, and 3 right now, the plot twist 4 unlocked, or do I just do plot twist 4? Because the natural energy in the world right now is remarkable. When they say that universal energy starts moving, it's definitely moving. But let me put my background images up for those who are going to be coming in the first couple of minutes before I introduce the audio. So I know that in order to do that, first and foremost, yeah, I want to share this one. I don't have to share the audio. I'll just leave it at that for now. Oh, glory. Oh, glory. Hey, you know what was most interesting about this is that when I went to find Oh Glory, it was because I had just listened to the song, my pre-warm-up song, which is that DJ Khaled song. And it got like the great artists that perform on it. And so I was like, Oh Glory. And I was like, wow, it's like a soulful sound to make, like when you sing Oh Glory to something that's soulful, soulful R&B. And so my mind making that connection was like, well, what is Oh Glory? And the universal energy was so strong. It's here. I'll show it this way. Let's talk and walk. Let's do it this way. We'll start this way, and from here we'll get into the information. So let me stop sharing that one because that was the good one. But the one that we actually want to get into is more or less jumping right on in. So let's go on and jump right on. That I want to share is the entire screen, but that one. How's my audio? Is my audio cool? Is my audio all right? First of all right, so now we got Gloria, but I can also do this slideshow. So what I'm asking is, do I go back and review the key insights that we pulled out and unlocked from Plot Twist 1 when we reviewed the Incel website and their tenets, their philosophies? There were a lot of screenshots, is why I'm asking. And those screenshots really start to line up well with the different things that we've heard people say. So once we started to move from Plot Twist 1 to Plot Twist 2, it was, well, what are the women who were being attacked saying to defend themselves? It was understanding how are the women who were being vocal and teaching other women how to be vocal and to stand up vocally, to not be a silent sufferer or not to struggle alone, but to be able to pull in a support system wherever they were, corporate America, in their own families or households. And so December 23, 2019, we took some time and we reviewed what their actual philosophies was. We stopped laughing. We stopped playing games. We stopped tee-heeing. and we looked into who are these people who are actually leveraging their attacks against the social media YouTube content creator, Cynthia G. And what we found was, not looking back at conjecture and just the cartoon characters, but when we were having the conversation, the person who came up to even address it and said, I am SYSBM, had a cartoon character, avatar, which I immediately addressed. A lot of people didn't understand it. Now you hear mine in the background. So a lot of people didn't really understand why I asked that young man to change his avatar. I told the young man that he needed to change his avatar because we don't want to be mistaking our content or what we're delivering to be something for kids. Later on, they actually made it built in to where they could filter out, is this content for kids? But before that, the person's avatar was of a Japanese anime. And his rebuttal was that, oh, anime's not for kids. But once okay, now I'll listen to you. When did you start liking anime? It went back into his childhood. So I was like, point proven, but he still didn't get it. Even without getting it though, out of respect, the young man did change his avatar. But it would not stop the OGs who were on social media like BGS Ibmore, who espounds that Black women were used as sexual breeders, from opening up a platform and creating a space where incels would feel comfortable espousing violence against Black women and Black girls. So because our place wasn't protected as fathers or as parents, we needed a space to be vocal. That was unlocking. Episode 1 was just, who were those key people making the attacks? Okay. It's a real thing when they talk about the gender war. And so we wanted to be able to actually provide merch receipts that were, this is not a game. In our space, which is the emergence of social media, which is where people typically have their family and friends. And then they had the argument in court about whether that is a violation of people or consumers' privacy. And they sided with Facebook that Facebook could allow marketing into our personal lives. But we're still family. And the marketing of our content, or even the looking at our content, somehow needed to be safeguarded by men willing to take a stand against Mark Zuckerberg's company. And we've had some voices from social media stand up, and some even tried to apply legal methodology. But if Mark Zuckerberg was willing to go to the American Senate, then you had to understand this issue was bigger than individual parents. The federal government's involvement was not able to sustain a protective environment for our families, our image, or our likeness. That's an important issue on a lot of fronts when you start looking at the data on the Black woman's experience in America. I'm not the one to provide that data or to hold those open forum public town halls. Some of the issues that are openly shared in those spaces, yes, my son needs to hear those. But if you allow the wrong people to spread that message online and to shape and develop what that message sounds like for the next generation, well, I had to show you. My son Quincy, this was 2 years ago, the comment section, somebody named Quincy. That's universal energy speaking that I wouldn't have been able to just deliver without showing you these interconnected receipts. Even then, it was Black women who stood up knowing that, all right, there will be African-American men who decide that it's only going to be about their dating choices. So they were willing to just accept it, write those men off as, all right, just leave. Some, though, challenged them intellectually, challenged whether or not the things that they were espousing in the presence of Black women and about Black children were self-hatred being projected online. Unfortunately, that wasn't a lot of men who had to stand up with that position and get whatever came at those men in those families, because once the conversation started rolling, what the research showed was that it was men more or less on the side of violence and predatory actions, defending, enabling, complicit, or just having a space where it was open and accessible to be pro fuck a bitch. And no, it's not just dating and mating and trigger warning. My content won't be for everyone. And so we approached Plot Twist 2 with that understanding that, all right, there are Black women who will be willing to tell a man, fuck off. And that's retaliatory, but it's really self-defense if you think about it. These men, their behaviors, the policies, all the violations could be captured by Plot 3 if you're able to follow the twist. What I actually like about Plot 2, though, so I know it went quickly, but Plot 2 pulled out the actual, I think it was the first time the targeted woman spoke on their legitimate philosophy, their website, their tenets. It was like her first time actually fighting back actually against what their written word was. Now, mind you, they had already tried to get her information, her channel struck down multiple times. She had been labeled a radical. They had done political as well as personal assaults on that woman, strictly for telling Black women that it's time for you to protect yourself and think of what's more in your best interests. The conversation did get a lot more illustrious than that, and we know it. It was very flavorful. And so that brings us into the plot twist unlocked for 4. Let me stop it here. Because from this section, it's gone beyond personal attacks. And I'm seeing people start to relocate from across the country over this action. It showed me that it was more than media when we were about the only ones willing to address the slaying evil crowd. If you Googled the organization, even before federal government ever came out or the articles were written, we were the ones having that conversation. And so let the history record show that it wasn't just a acronym or it wasn't just a, hey, this is an orange flag violation, something's going on. When Black Femicide started an Instagram post to just share the receipts, because even if they saw it, they didn't believe it with their own eyes, and they could hear it, they wouldn't believe it with their own ears, but they would still want us to salute and say, oh, glory. And so we got a problem here. We definitely have a problem here. Universal energy got too strong, man, and I think it's directly correlated with what the African American woman has experienced. I prefer to say Black, but a more universal terminology would be African American. Plot twist 3 got so heavy. Let me share the screen. It might put me in a bit of a loop, but don't worry about it. And here's where we about left off. So, all right, my mic look hot. DJ Khaled, God Did, featuring Rick Ross, Lil Wayne, Jay-Z, John Legend, and Friday. This is a song it's an empowering song for me. And so when I started thinking about, you know what I'm saying, I started thinking about Oh Glory. It's like it fits right in. I wish I could play it, but they be hating on shit like that. But even while I was listening to it, your comment got a heart from Virtuous Woman TV. I was like, damn, what happened? Finding love in the Dominican Republic. You would lose in a debate with me at Taz Exclusives, the teacher. So I was obviously listening to this, playing the old playback when Taz Exclusives was challenging even the ideology of forming a network where African American men would travel abroad and have, you know, everything that we uncovered in Plot Twist 3, what they were talking about. But here's another receipt. They won't screenshot this one, would they? No, they won't screenshot that one, because when we pull up the age of consent, which is always their argument for the Dominican Republic, what would it prove? And when they tell you that they want a size 6, what does it start to prove? Yeah, we had issues. And as you see there on the bottom of it, SYSBM and Passport Bros, when are y'all leaving? 2019. And so we did connect those videos. I showed you those ones from Oshay Duke Jackson when the person who presented that video or that panel, Edward Andersen, presented a panel to Oshay Duke Jackson about Black men leaving. Those were the two videos, and that plot twist was brought together with merch and receipts from the B1 Network exclusives, archives. I don't know if I've incorporated this yet. But when it comes to the Pan-Africanist or the Garveyism leanings, from my understanding, this person would be somebody who exhibits it. And then the other crosshair or the intersectionality of these sectors is the sellout diaries, of course. Because the way that we were dismissing these people was similar to how in the conscious community, they call Black people who are on the Republican side or conservatives sellouts or coons. Hot words that could get your channel flagged. I got you. Family meeting. 1,485 views at the time, April 29th, 2022. Brother Moses is Taz's and Nyla's side piece. Please check out and subscribe to the following channels. Support the movement. Show more. The receipt was shared. You sent $40 USD to Moses. Thanks for support. Major falling out. Major falling out. As promised on Plot Twist 3, I don't throw generic statements. While this person wasn't on the panel originally, he was introduced as a part of that manosphere for his philosophy of pump and dump. His philosophy of pump and dump was backed with a music video that men question whether it's the promotion of juvenile prostitution. The allegation doesn't stem from what we believe it is, based off of, oh, when we saw the image that he shared in the video. It stems from his own criminal record. Oh yeah, I should probably say that more excitingly. And yes, it was at a time when America was fighting to get Craigslist ads banned because of juvenile prostitution. And just because our society is transitioned into TikTok, do not think that those predators are not hiding behind avatars. Plot twist. Us warning them that they sounded predatory didn't change a thing. In fact, the opposite. What would have been around 400 to 500 gathered together to talk shit about the Black woman and child support ended up becoming a tool for the propagation of the promotion of juvenile prostitution. And unfortunately, there were Black women who were there to aid the camp and grow their network, accepting and enabling these type of men as just being a part of the family. Something to which I obviously find offensive. Another thing that's easy to find offensive is that despite us being able to connect the receipts when they put out their tenets and philosophies, they would call me wrong for connecting Tenet 3 to Kevin Samuels. Despite Kevin Samuels being the person who initially came out and said, thank you, Oshay Duke Jackson from the Negro Manosphere, and the receipts that I shared perfectly aligning with his platform. Another plot twist. Women were the primary caller-ins to have their value rated or underrated or rated average at best. So that small group of 500 that we used to laugh at and think were just weird incels looking for a circle jerk or a space that they could vent in, it expanded with the popularity of Kevin Samuels, to the point where men took off their shirts, revealed their tatted up bodies, and some had the image of Kevin Samuels tatted on their flesh. While others not so extreme went to Twitter, Black Twitter. Not gonna lie, I shed a tear for Kevin Samuels this morning, mainly for the simple fact that tomorrow really isn't promised. I never met him, but to just pass so suddenly is so sad and scary. Life is so short. I don't want problems with nobody! Exclamation point. I just want to be alive, healthy, and peaceful. And I probably don't got a single deuce in the chat. But that's all right. Hold on to them then. Because I understand that yes, there are a lot who are still standing at the valley, considering their climb up Mammy Mountain. They're looking at their approach and they're trying to figure out for themselves whether or not they're reformists. That'd just be Uncle Snoop right there, not the killer. That's just Snoop. Now, who am I to talk so much shit about the social scene? Because I'm just Brother Moses. This is just a hybrid platform where social media and online community intersect and the content evolves around the Black experience. I am welcoming new subscribers on this new subscriber campaign. Plot twist. There's so many ironies, we have to call them out. Like, this is the response from a virtuous woman in response to a married man who the GOAT. And so I don't defend neither one of them, but I try to actually keep the content relevant. And in this case, I want to see this. Did I say I don't defend neither one of them? I heard my own conscience say, nigga, yeah, right. Damn, I'm trying to run the screen. The screen is actually here. Oh, but I haven't rendered it yet. So it's not giving me that option to render that one yet. Well, despite that, as we said, this fight goes well before it arrived to social media. In order to make these same things apply that happened from Craigslist and Backpage or Black Page, I don't know even what they were called, as a married man in 2013, I didn't feel that I needed protection from that until we started to hear the rhetoric openly in public spaces. So it did take the transition from seeing people's Facebook posts to being able to hear some of the darker thoughts that these niggas have. And since we as parents do not have the authority to stop these people from putting on whatever avatar they want to put on and following our children around, we can't block that. We know it's an issue bigger than an individual family's rights. With social media, it transcends national borders or physical geographical boundaries. You could go to Mexico, or you could go to Africa. And that carbon footprint that is left on social media can go with you wherever there's banking and trade or wherever you wish to communicate. Keep that in mind as we talk about the protection of the Black male image or the protection of the Black woman. But if we can't protect the Black child, then you can throw the protection of the Black woman and the protection of the Black man out the window. And what I'm saying is, because this is Black men who are not willing to do that protecting, that are espousing towards leaving, that there should be deuces in the chat. Yeah, the laughing has stopped. Reparations are being considered. Simultaneously with reparations, there has always been the undergirding statement that those African Americans who don't ascribe to Blackness can return. Abraham Lincoln considered $100,000 for them niggas to go. I would not disagree with Abraham Lincoln, and Donald Trump said he was the best thing for the African American community since Abraham Lincoln. I'm not bullshitting when I said politics. And when I said they could afford reparations and they said no, the nation afforded reparations for every citizen. In fact, I don't believe they had a process to discriminate against non-citizens, because when COVID hit, everyone impacted was able to benefit somehow. So the argument that they couldn't afford it, they being the federal government, or they being the federal taxpayers, or they being however you choose to frame it, is irrelevant when we saw that it used to be 100,000 applications for the Small Business Association nationally for those loans. Oh, but that was before December 29th, 2019. When the federal government needed to turn on that spigot, universities were able to benefit. Pharmaceutical companies were getting hundreds of millions of dollars at a time. Of course, you had to know that at some point, trickle-down economics would hit Black folks. And the conversation would go towards, what would you do if the federal government cut you a check? Well, right now, direct deposit, again. Some of them decide that they want to travel, and I'm not against them traveling. I just, like, I've seen people get held up on crimes like vape pens with THC in them and face 9 years in those other countries. And all we know is that we don't have a system that can penalize them for their free speech. We don't have a system that can penalize SYSBM, because Black women and Black children do have the right to be afraid to hear that kind of rhetoric. And yes, should be petrified and arming themselves once they see it and hear it for themselves, with the news streamlined only to show them Black femicide every day. Oh, it was hilarious. It was a comeback when it was the white community producing serial killer mass white boys who just go on killing sprees, and then that universal energy hits. And it was merely a talking point for Black Republican conservative who addressed the turning point in the USA as being a race issue economically. But their primary example is always Cook County, Chicago, but not as detailed as what you see on your screen. They'll give you general stories and we'll tell you that this nigga is operating right here on there, and the number went from 500. Hand me down, I'm tired of this audience, y'all take it and do something with it, to being a space that openly promotes the prostitution of juveniles as, well, America, we need to hold those young hoes accountable. And the way that they do so is slick, y'all. The way that they do so is slick. They advocate it this way. They say, if you are a man and you end up on any of these juries that have anything to do with an alleged sexual crime, not guilty, regardless of what the evidence says.
All of these people affiliated with them that just kind of just like was like, man, fuck it, man, I'm done. You know, like, it's, I got the energy, y'all, and I feel like we should all come back together once we annihilate this shit and then have a conversation. Period.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's 100% on time and on point for what you just said, and because like me, I'm the type of person, I want to see everybody do good. Like I want to see, I want to see, Black people be able to live their best life, and have their content, make money off their content, stuff like that. Even when I don't agree with them, even when we might get to a knockdown, drag out. I'm not a evil spirited person. You know what I'm saying? Well, I want to see, you know, this person just come to ruin, and you're right, because they went out their way to ruin a lot of people's channels and content and stuff like that, as if it's not enough space.
Stop. Because they wouldn't believe it if they saw it with their own eyes, that when we were addressing the SYSBM tenets themselves in the philosophies, Chaos Reign joined my platform. And if you look on your screen, you'll see the reason why the tribe of women who were pushing back against the Manosphere could not include the Womansphere. Not that it doesn't include creating a woman's sphere or a space where women can have their protection, but that they may have missed it if they didn't see that even in this chat. Brother Moses, if this is just entertainment to you, don't at me. Go tee-hee with the kid toucher Ramil until you come to your senses too. That I came in there, and when I was disrespectful to this woman's platform, I super chatted her out of support because I was spreading awareness of a different issue altogether. Ramil got fans. It's crazy. Moses, I don't know you to have an issue with you, sir. Mahogany Root said no cussing in the chat. You questioned her, so I answered and gave you a solution. Just misspell the curse words. Don't tell me how to cheat the system when I'm trying to address something that I feel is this important, that, look, there is somebody in your space that is using my name and adding me as if I'm the piece of shit in this space. And so, like social media and this content converging would, I'm only there to address the man who is adding me in this woman's chat. Other than that, carry on, have your conversations as they try to merge the Womansphere and the Manosphere. But even if I let you hear it again, in sequence, the Manosphere and what they feel, and how that would not be a good idea for women to seek to merge with that. You wouldn't believe it with your own eyes and ears. But here you go.
For us to all coexist and make a little money. Meanwhile,
we can exist and make a little money. Meanwhile,
you know, YouTube reflects the large.
This is the Derek Jackson effect. I know y'all saw that. What does that have anything to do with in this conversation?
Society where the content creators are making the most money are white, and yet we sit here trying to, well, not we have people sitting in this space trying to devour other channels and other people's content.
Sitting in this space trying to devour other people's channels and their content. So somebody decided to respond in the chat. Where Ramil at? He ain't even hearing people writing it. Another homoerotic reference for a married man. Come on, Juju. I see the laughing emojis, but understand there was laughing and TTing is what I was saying about Ramil. This message shows me that there was somebody reading and responding in the chat, so it was important for me to spread my message about the tee-hee-hee on these subjects. Somebody said, how do we condemn Ramil when Taz supports sinful to pedo? Somebody says, BWS, the cripple from Usual Suspects. Somebody else, plenty hide behind the excuse of entertainment. And then Brother Moses, oh, I thought I read that through my victim eyes. My bad. My bad.
In this shit because they want it all for themselves. Like, nah, man.
You mean trick it? They fight for scraps. That's what it is. Yeah.
So, but I'm gonna buy out with that, and yeah, Black Womansphere. Just what it?
TGT. They only like crackhead and toothless abusers. Okay, got it. We not part of the Toothless Club. Rozzy Cashy Harris. The House of Cards is coming soon. Nkrumah Ture will fire for effect, expend all ammo. Nkrumah Ture. But y'all don't see no Pan-African connections why these people should just be hot, like a hot deuce. I hated to see that it was Rozzy and they're actually flipping even on me. Like, damn, this was a jab right here that made me realize. And so just like this content creator posted, we give respect to the original content creators' clips that we used. Please check him out.
Put the email in the chat so we can email and work on some maybe collabing and stuff like that, because like I said, I have 3 daughters.
So because I said that about Ramil, it then flipped to Taz support for Sinful to P. Why most people support Taz? Because he roasts Taz and no one holds his supporting Sinful to pedo head ass now. The House of Bums, averaging 2 victims per year based on the information given so far. The toothless version. Most PPP support Ramil because he roasts Taz. Stop it. The Gynocracy takeover. Most PPP support Ramil because he roasts Taz. The universal energy is so big, I'm gonna say that one more time, like Umar Johnson, who hours ago, again, I believe, or as it seems through the B1 network grapevine, decides he wants to roast NG. Now, maybe those are the lies and we reading into the information wrong as the 5th and 6th and 7th party hand information providers on this whole experience, but sheesh, the universal energy is real. And the reason why Plot Twist 3 had to change from being the perfect trifecta that included the Womansphere and venture down a conscious thought of, damn, we got to talk about why these niggas ain't left yet, is because even at that time, the Womansphere energy was too soon to be reconciliatory towards these people who still haven't answered the question. Which side they're on. That side is not a subjective, colorful, they make it plain enough when they say the age of consent. And their disagreement is that the age of consent should be lower. And I don't believe that that is even negotiable. I believe 18 is the conservative number. Like the insurance companies, 24, 25 years old. And as a father, it doesn't stop. I never want my child to have to come into contact with these people online or in person. And there's no vetting process. And in fact, they are the protected class. They'll let them sign a registry, but if you suspect that even if the person on the registry itself is being foul and disrespectful towards you and your family, you, for responding to their vow, are wrong. They're protected. They're celebrated. Their channels are growing. Their spaces do 100,000 views before the opposing voice says, y'all need to slow down and listen to what you're actually asking for politically and economically by partnering with those people. At best, sexual tourism is for those adults who are responsible, and I'd leave it at their choice. Men wanting to create a network for sexual tourism repulses the hell out of me. And men who want to treat the Black community as a destination for sexual tourism, and the women who would enable it as it creeps towards the promotion of juvenile prostitution. I say y'all need to listen to these people again. Or plot twist 1, plot twist 2, plot twist 3, plot twist 4. Information is yours. It's free now. I'm gonna let them tell you themselves though.
And I know that it's gonna be slim pickings for we're dealing with these brothers. So I have no problem with them, you know, being empowered and, you know, wanting to chart their own course and stuff. So I think, you know, there is a conversation to be had on that. It's not a threatening thing like a lot of these Manosphere content creators wanna make it. You know what I'm saying? So, but I gotta go, y'all. But y'all know what it is.
Thank you, Amir.
Yeah, and one other thing I do want to say, overall, it's not even summertime yet.
He said YouTube is all about echo chambers. Realistically, there are good men and women, but you would never know this from listening to the talking points pushed on this app. YouTube is not real life. Ask a guy, which is likely someone influenced by Japanese animation, who, because of Google algorithm and YouTube analytics, may have found our space. And when I say the avatars, sometimes those avatars are unprotected, vulnerable, moldable students. But yet, here's your fight.
And it's already getting hot. And I'm hoping this really does simmer down before we get to that. Because that's where I want things to turn up. You know what I'm saying? With the content on YouTube. For what we were supposed to really be doing. You get me?
That's what I'm saying, Kel.
Yeah.
We've all been distracted by talking. Like, listen, our talking points not aligning is what makes good content. The people are not thinking strategically. They aren't thinking like media. This is media, y'all. I know y'all don't like to think that. Y'all want to sit up and y'all personalizing shit that y'all should not personalize. If we can get on here and kick shit with each other and talk to each other and be in complete disagreement, guess who's going to watch? Everybody. They don't want to sit and always talk to people saying the same thing. They don't. That's boring.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can get back to that. We can all get back to that. We can all, start doing content with each other. Doing interviews like Mahogany do, everybody talking to everybody and disagreeing, but leaving the panel in respect and walking away, making sure we make money, like making this shit like a business, man. Despite if YouTube pay us or not, like, pay each other, like, even if it's just $25, like, if that's all you got, like, pay somebody $25 to come on your panel. Make it worth their time.
And as we are in the chats, because you can see it with your eyes and you can hear it with your own ears, the gynocracy takeover again. Solar Mind admitted out his own mouth he was inappropriate with children. There's a whole video on it. Brother Moses, get your ass back here. answer to you being a pedo supporter hype man. Mrs. Mahogany Lady Mo. Who, Moses? I didn't ask you. Someone else did, brother. Brother Moses says those are your receipts. Because I guess the gynocracy takeover has some receipts where Solar Mind is admitting that he was inappropriate with children. I don't have those receipts. But as you see on the receipts that I'm showing here, now I'm pulled in to somebody's delusion. Plot twist 4, the question is, what the fuck are these people even talking about? So Ghost chimes in. Brother Moses is an idiot. Taz is around people who have child chargers. One of the men have a charge for threatening to harm a child. What the fuck are you talking about? I just, like, how could I be the idiot when my post was about Ramil, who was promoting juvenile prostitution, and now you're asking me about the threatening of a child? No, you just got the conversation rolling that people wanted to have the conversation on. Taz gonna speak for himself. He always does. He told you. All these child charges and all of that shit, or connecting Taz to somebody who Taz did a channel, Solar Mind. Let's do it first then. Solar Mind's admission has nothing to do with me. So when you have the conversation with me, I was thinking about, why are y'all not having a conversation about Ramil, since this was the person on the channel talking about Ramil, and Ramil was the person who not only threatened the child was used and exploited sexually. But rather than have anyone address that, they just said, oh, I'm dick riding Ramil. But no one answered the question, which is why it went from 500 to 1,000 people listening live, and why there was a merger of those women who actually support that message, subconsciously or consciously, or who know they've seen it and they've heard it. All of dramatic ironies is that even while this was running, and I talk about the Google Analytics and such, Sinful to P, who only later came out and discussed again this that they're talking about. Because obviously once that energy, or that feminine, or that dark feminine, or whatever you call it, universal energy, God power, however you label it, spirits, soul, karma, dharma, you believe whether it's originated from Indians or Kemetic science or Orishas, or you call it white Jesus, Christianity, or your grandmother's sense, you could call it your maternal instinct. That was what was being challenged the entire time during this stream. Oh yeah, I got to get that shit out. Because by plot twist 4, it's like, why is this married man have a married woman on his screen? Well, that married woman meant absolutely nothing to nobody unless you knew who the married woman was. And the way that you know who the married woman was is probably because she's done a bit of marketing. But if you didn't know, people should know that is not my wife. If I talk about my wife, I'm talking about a doctor. When a woman calls my phone, then they're either asking for me or Dr. Jenkins. Because they ask for Dr. Jenkins, they ain't even asking about me, Doc. They asking for my legitimate, literal, figurative, philosophical, theological better half. But here, they're not even asking about me. They're atting my name asking about some other man's wife. As if I should be having a conversation about some other man's wife. I support them as a small business entrepreneur, and they supported by trying to help me do the little bit that I could with the little bit of resources I had. But don't get it confused. That was not meant to conflate the personal relationship. There was no Moses is now able to speak for either Taz exclusives or Nyla Says. But since they asked the question, oh, it's not even the summertime. We need to wait until it heats up, because you know what happens in September. September is the mental health awareness month, where they're essentially encouraging people to get it out. But some of these niggas can't handle it. And the warning for the Black woman was Black femicide. And they let her channel get snatched off of Instagram the very month where that threat is highest, where it becomes red. And Black women can't do shit about it. The same way they could snatch Roe versus Wade right, they could snatch your womb right out your body. You don't come with certain inalienable rights because of your gender. I guess that's what they told her.
Like, all right, cool. That's a part of the argument, but there's a lot more to that. And a lot of niggas ain't keeping it real. So my thing is, fuck out of here with this shit, man. I'm really past that, man. We got to start being honest. That's like saying every woman from the hood is the only person that broke my heart. That's not true. Most women that, you know what I mean, probably got to me, they came from good families. They came from the middle class. They was educated women. I knew what to look out for with the woman from the hood. Game recognized game. You see what I'm saying? Game recognized game. So, you know what I mean? Are we saying that the only woman out here doing damage is hood rats? That's cat.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
It's a bunch of college educated, advanced degree, corporate women, you know what I'm saying? Government working women out here. They run in circles around men. Got these niggas on child support, having their babies, all type of shit. So, you know, a lot of this shit got to be flushed out properly, man. And, you know, maybe that's where I might disagree with Kevin on some of these things, because at the end of the day, I have my own observations on this shit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of niggas, and you know, I'll take the heat. A lot of niggas need to look in the mirror. A lot of niggas, you know, and just deal with that mirror and understand, like, look, you're not entitled to no pussy, bro.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. You ain't entitled to no pussy. That's just what it is. If you don't get a woman aroused, if you don't get her pussy wet, if she don't feel a certain type of way when you walk in the room, then you probably won't fuck.
Hey, big bro, the thing is with that, that's the social media shit once again, because a lot of niggas they can't control it. They never see you gotta think, if it weren't for social media, they would never see these girls like this. They would never see that they ass like this. They would never see their body like this. Niggas ain't got control. Like you said, niggas start to feel like, damn, she put it out there, nigga, that don't mean that she wanted for you. You get what I'm saying? But like you said though, a lot of niggas, like I said, it go back to a lot of these niggas without this social media. Niggas wasn't that nigga back in school. Not that niggas just never had their way. And now they just get frustrated, and then niggas get over here and bash women. Like I'm never on that type of shit. That's why I really couldn't get on the Kevin Sam shit, because I see a lot of it was like, you know, I just don't like bashing the dead or talking about the dead, because I don't rock like that.
Yeah.
Fuck that nigga, he dead. What he gonna do?
Niggas gotta step outside and experience the world type shit.
I mean, like, that's a fact, man. Look, it's levels, right?
Fact.
Everything. And, you know, that's just one of my favorite sayings, because it's just so appropriate to a lot of things. But look, it's levels. And the whole thing with the women, truth be told, man, there's a major rift in Black America, man. You know what I mean? Between classes, between, you know, like what culture we want to pick up. And, you know, Black men, we obviously are put in a box. You know, in white culture, they got a lot of different lanes and subdivisions for every type of.
Hi, now we could pause and unlock, because this one goes for a little minute. But what you actually see is on Cinco de Mayo, at the notification of the passing of Kevin Samuels, you'll notice that the live stream chats, or the chat live streams, were playing, because you got on this bottom screen Inky, considered online influencers, and then you also had C-Boogie Productions live streaming essentially a memorial service or a grief support group for those who felt like they had lost social media influencer Kevin Samuels. despite me saying, fuck that nigga, he dead, for others, this was a legitimate grief support group. And it was a larger gathering of people grieving openly in a public space than what many that have been labeled leaders would have ever experienced in their life. And they had never met this man. All they met was his character, his persona online. I gotta drink some more orange juice because celebrity worship is so dangerous that the way they put a suit on shit had Black women believing that shit was edible because it looked like chocolate. And there were very few people that were willing to say, ladies, 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 that is still a piece of shit. You don't smell that shit because the other senses is not working. And so who's going to actually merch it and take you back to 2018, where the founder got the conceptual framework from Edward Andersen, and on that panel, plot twist 3, Xanathos Clutch. Now, there's been a few people who told these dudes is weird, even when they thought that they were helping truckers or men in the trucking community. Now, if you're in the trucking community, they have their own little culture where they have a different tolerance for sex workers. So on their walkie-talkies and in their network, that's more of a closed communication network amongst truckers. That's not our YouTube. It is highly unlikely that there are young boys and girls out there who just for fun have a truck stop app listening to what truck stoppers talk about, truck stop operators talk about on their walkie-talkies. But it is highly likely that a young child, young boy, or young girl would be attracted to an anime. I'm just saying. But if I show you and I tell you and connect the actual people and voices, you wouldn't believe us when we say, why the hell did B.E.T celebrate that man? If anything, the women should have stood up immediately and told B.E.T to kiss their whole entire Black ass for honoring that man, as if he was Prince, a symbol for the non-binary community. Xanathos Clutch, I can go all day on this subtopic, LOL. There are dudes who are culturally incompatible with where they're from, and then there are guys who are universally awkward. His vision came true of an African-American male community centered on, if you still experience hardships in America, you should just go. Well, that nigga Kevin Samuel's soul left his body, and I'm not responsible for that shit. God did that.
Person, but you know, truth be told, if you're a Black man, you either a cool ass athlete nigga or you like a Bartholomew type, right? That's how they like to paint us. And I know we more diverse than that, but I'm speaking on the imagery, right? It's a lot of it is the imagery. You know, I mean, you either the Steve Urkel or you know, you're a cool ass Stefan type of nigga, and that's really holding us back. But as Black men, that's our job to change that narrative. Let me give you an example. Y'all remember when shit, man, probably about, 10, 12 years ago. Remember when a lot of these white dudes started coming out with these movies about these, quirky, nerdy tech guys, but at the end of the movie they would get the fine girl and shit like that. It was like a bunch of them movies coming out back to back to back, and it was like, what's going on? But that was the white guys in Silicon Valley back in that. That was the white guys in tech. That was the white guys that was programmers. Like, you know what? We need to put this on blast and let the women know that we the niggas getting the money now. We the guys getting the bag. We driving Lambos. We taking private jet. Da, 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 da. But they put their money where their mouth is to change the narrative, and a lot of those guys is winning now. Like Elon Musk is quirky as hell. He the coolest nigga out there. You see what I'm saying?
Chat check. The Move to Feminize Men by Grace Richardson. Kevin Samuels critiqued men. It just wasn't talked about because we accepted accountability. The black men felt like they accepted accountability by forming their network, starting a club in the Dominican Republic, and creating a space where human trafficking is accepted because that's the age of consent according to those men's laws. And they can go and nest in a community where a size 6 is their standard in order to escape any responsibilities or ties to America. My argument is that before they leave, look out for the big fuck you. My argument is before they leave, watch out for the very dangerous hit and run. It may not have been an accident. That they may not have bumped into you for some unintentional, coincidental apology. Chat check. Female hormones added to foods to lower men's sperm count by Grace Richardson. Revenge of the Nerds by London Link. Xanathos Clutch. Smart black women will either date men, intelligent black men, or date across the spectrum. Black men, excuse me. He should have said black men because I swear to God, this was supposed to be for the death of Kevin Samuels. Here's the deal with Kevin Samuels. 600 watching, a dead man mourning, and it's still black men from 4 years ago telling what a smart black woman will choose. Not the dead man. Fuck the dead man. Talk about those hoes. But when it came down to it, they chose the black man who only wants thugs that are too ignorant for their own good and thus should be avoided anyway. Still fucking talking. That's all a nigga could look and say is still fucking talking. That's an L, bruh. That's a fail. That from before the life of Kevin Samuels, we could not discourage this from becoming the mainstream thing that made it onto B.E.T. And in fact, the image would change the same way their website changed. Let me body this because I'm tired of talking and it's 7:05. As we saw with the incel thing, let me see, which one do we need? Let me go back to my main screen. If there's more than one rocking, I'm still talking, but I'm done talking. Baby, because I'm a thug. Yep, there's still more than one rocking, so I'm still talking. I know y'all see this screen. Let me go and embody this with the real receipts because it's receipts on top of receipts. Now let me check again and make sure you can see the screen that I'm seeing. The double triple dog, make sure you see it. I see it. I see it right here in the underscreen. This was from the tenets that they espoused. Except, as Taz tried to warn y'all, when it came to Negro wars, which is Black femicide related, not just communicating language, but advocating violence against Black women and children, as we found, if there was only one silver lining that we could ever walk away with, is that they did change, as I showed you. Their website is no longer an Asian juvenile and now appears to be a white woman. I emphasized it as much as I could so that when we got to plot 4, there would be no questions that the federal government would want to get involved once they said, okay, now the war is for the loots and spoils, i.e. white women. But when we look at these tenets, and I allowed you to scroll through those tenets as much as you wanted to, they didn't change this shit. There's still no space here. All the grammatical errors are still grammatical errors. Here we see in 1, the Black community is dead and Black women were the ones who killed it. By the way, as I've mentioned before, Black women are the Black community. Black men, on the other hand, in their eyes, speaking for women once again as a part of their philosophy, are not considered to be part of the Black community. The Black female looks upon them as outside help to forward her agenda and her agenda alone. 2, we are knights of the round table, recognize the necessity to exclude Black women from any and all building and construction endeavors due to the fact that the modern day Black females' contractual obligation towards the state is to keep Black society and Black men flat on their faces until the end of time. That had not a single comma in it. In other words, comma, you cannot emphasize, these are not my words, these are theirs, and y'all put the nigga on B.E.T. as if you allow B.E.T. to support domestic terrorism. Call it what it is. If it was white supremacy, they call it white supremacy. When a nigga does it, it's still hate speech. She could not be a human or a person. You couldn't build with her because Salem witch trials, you cannot build anything with the Black witch in your midst. Nothing you attempt to build will be successful. You see them screaming it because she at the same time will try her best to sabotage and destroy the works without a space before the parenthesis, as per her state occupation and obligation. 2 is the one that everybody who claimed to been a Kevin Samuels supporter, and the reason why B.E.T. never should have supported that man like he was Prince or Michael Jackson in the media space, why they should have at least known what the fuck they were talking about before they praised him for his contribution. His contribution, by the way, which just so happened to be 100% in line with this shit. 3, I tried to avoid reading it, but I didn't get enough deuces in my chat saying that this information was something that y'all know and understand. Their 3, as promoted by their progenitor, Kevin Samuels, who authored my homeboy, what's his name? Not Kevin Samuels, Oshay Duke Jackson. He authored that nigga. And so here you go. The mastery that sounds like a nigga. Number 3, Kevin Samuels' rhetoric verbatim. SYSBM is all about expanding upon one's dating, marrying and procreation options with high quality women. Now, in its earlier stages, SYSBM did include quality, functional, feminine, good-looking, in shape, natural, submissive, cooperative, and child-free Black women. But if you check any of the data and statistics I'm looking at, somebody of Kevin Samuel's age is not likely to find a child-free, single Black woman. And if he is, that's probably the reason why it didn't work out with him and his wife. Or probably the reason why, even when his daughter tried to grieve, social media brought her up like, oh, there she goes. She says she don't fuck with that nigga neither. Oops, I'm messy. But B.E.T. does. Let's see what B.E.T. must have wanted to send a message that they're in unity with. However, in big, however, all caps, which we know they are, but we were done laughing. And I tried to show you, and I tried to let you hear it in their own words, but now you need me to author this shit because I don't got no deuces. However, it is now widely recognized by the SYSBM troops, as if you don't think that these are terms relative to war and violence. Because it looks like, by all terms and purposes, Black femicide being banned from YouTube, or banned from Instagram rather, should not have been the one being banned. She's the one saying Black women are being killed across America. Here are the news clips and the examples. They banned her for sharing it, but they allowed B.E.T. to praise and worship and give a holy testimony for the person who says Black women should be drugged through the mud by their troops. The SYSBM troops, who in their early stages did not include quality, functional, feminine, good-looking, in shape, natural, submissive, cooperative, and child-free Black women. However, it is now widely recognized by the SYSBM troops. However, in big, not my words, theirs, that at this point, such women have become an extreme rarity to the point of extinction. Thus, the non-mixed Black female, by default, is excluded. So you got to be mixed, or if you don't got no other admixture, you're just black woman. Yeah, it's exclusive for Black women. So I can understand why the race argument would be co-opted by the Asians in corporate America. I could understand why the Asians would say that they're the victims when the Black woman has to give her seat up to a non-binary Edward Andersen, who says that his trans youth issues are more important than the protection of the Black woman and child. I can understand that, because feminism then, and any of the advances or the positions positioned, well, that's just an extinct rarity to find some Black woman who's not empowered by feminism. And I don't need the table bang because I don't need no amens. But the way I feel, I need the table bang to sound off, because I don't want to hit that man in his mouth. If I hit that man, I'm wrong. Free-thinking Black men who practice SYSBM will almost certainly find themselves dealing with quality women of non-Black ethnicities or mixed-race females. Additionally, SYSBM rejects, and I don't even know what this means, it's hard for me to pronounce with my obvious reproductive instrument malfunctions or deformities. Like, just say your teeth fucked up, nigga. It's hard to say scraggle-daggle. Or you from the South, it's hard to say scraggle-daggles and take them seriously as a philosophy. But yet, I wouldn't have had to take them seriously as a philosophy if they didn't put Kevin Samuels on the B.E.T. award show after he died. I'm the one who said, fuck that nigga. They're the ones who commemorated his death if he meant something. But I'm here to tell you that number 4, it was organized and it's constructed of men who use the same similar type of acronyms, but claim they aren't a part of the LGBT community. So when Kevin Samuels asked for the LGBT community to actually come in and help his ass out, got me stuttering saying all of that shit. And I'm forgetting the P and the T. You can forget about making it to the trans youth and what their rights are. If you've already dismissed the rights of a heterosexual, just black girls, period, then now we just live in that space where, okay, now I got you. Everybody gets protection or nobody gets protection. It's got to be black and white. No, no. When you find somebody that specifically should be called out, I'm for calling that person out specifically, not the generic statements. Let's look at 4, because they've associated themselves in groups because they wanted their own distinction. One from another, they can be combined as the Manosphere, but they were given a platform where those ideologies could converge. SYSBM being one of them. As you see, they're trying to draw distinction with 4, as stated concerning MGTOW, SYSBM, and IBMOR. Though there may be similarities in the lifestyles, or as stated concerning MGTOW is how that's pronounced. MGTOW, men going their own way. SYSBM, which I originally thought was cis black men because I went to Morehouse, so they were at the time talking about pronoun and gender. So I know the conversation goes over some people's heads and they wouldn't be able to prioritize. Is he really talking about protection for trans youth? Is he saying everybody needs protection? Is he Black Lives Matter, BLM? I'll tell you, Black Lives Matter got it wrong. That the real BLM has to do with land. It's the Bureau of Land Management, that it's federal government resources and that blood was shed. Niggas died for this shit. If you call them Black, Indian, Native American, I don't care what you keep trying to change the identity as. You're not going to hide behind the, oh, well, I identify as something other than. On this argument, this one can be no gray area. That's my position, though. Theirs is the expansion of it. But they deny their affiliation with them. Look who they claim affiliation with. Men going their own way. SYSBM, save yourselves, black men, and IBMOR, which I fucking forget. International Businessmen of Reason. Intelligent Black Men of Reason. So I think it's Intelligent Black Men of Reason. Anyway. What some would call a grief group or a grief support group or a space where men can come together and talk their men issues. What typically ended up happening is that they would generalize black women. And out of that generalization, those black men picked out one particular social media woman and targeted her real life, personal, by extracting her data and personal information from social media, making it public to the point where there was nowhere to run anymore. It's an international community that told you and then set up businesses to where they can go where they needed to go. The only thing they needed from there would be international hitmen like the crazy motherfucker walking around killing people in Memphis. But if I just hit a motherfucker who I thought was sounding weird straight in the mouth, I'm the one whose whole record gets fucked up. No. In their words, as stated concerning MGTOW, SYSBM, and IBMOR, though there may be similarities in the lifestyles, are not one and the same. It's not a complete sentence. This is the one that it really threw us off. And we laughed instead of taking them serious. From what I understand concerning IBMOR, the woman you are to settle down, marry, and procreate with must be a black female. And on the other hand, the SYSBM lifestyle gives black men the freedom, the date, marry, and procreate with quality women of any ethnicity. In other words, you are not restricted to the black siren alone. And so we pointed it out, and this was the only time that the woman who was actually targeted and had her personal information pulled out of that protected Facebook space. And no matter, you can try if you want to think that people would be protected. The black woman was not protected. Mark Zuckerberg did not have a policy or even a culture or environment as a private business interest to protect the black woman's personal information. Snatched it out, making her as vulnerable as a vulnerable woman could be. They say it's because of her conversation and her rhetoric. Her rhetoric was too strong. She said, if this is what the black man dating option looks like, and she encouraged black women who now I can't say it's not my business, but I can tell you that gender-based legislation said it harder than she ever could say it. And while they were arguing about not paying child support, the impact or the result of the Supreme Court, or the highest decision maker, not Brother Moses, the Supreme Court, the impact of their decision with that, what the MU Clarence Thomas, God damn you. What they said then would have been what held black men accountable, not avoiding child support by spending your money on a trip to the boom boom room. I had to learn that the hard way, but it wasn't so hard for me because in my experience, respect goes a long way. That woman came up and she addressed this specifically, which was number 4. And we've shown you the correlation between Kevin Samuels and number 3. Functional, feminine, good-looking, in shape, natural, submissive, cooperative, child-free black woman, or she's not high quality or high value. If there are any other confusing terms, then you would have to do additional research on who it is they say these people are. But the plot twist, BGS Ibmore, the one who was training these young minds, these young youthful, I'm either in high school or getting out, using a cartoon avatar, BGS Ibmore, was the one who was attacking black women by using the reference to them being historically breeders of slavery. From there, they wrote a book that really dog walked the fuck out of an ideal thought or a hood rat called A Ratchet's Rouge, to which they were propagating that same message. And they expanded it to include the mixed woman. So what we said was the rape of the black woman, under no conditions, if she's not considered human under their political system and economically she's enslaved, then she didn't have agency. That's adolescence. That's juvenile or a minor offense in the eyes of the court or the highest court. That she was property. But that same nigga then, who should have been able to understand that she did not have choice in that sexual proclivities, cannot, with their mentality, return to America after having traveled abroad to sow their royal American oats with size 6, potentially, if we go off their information, juveniles physically. Slowing all the way down. 5, SYSBM encourages the black man to travel the world and to experience new people and new cultures. As I've stated before, as a black man who lives in the UK, the attack on passport holding black men from the passport and dick policing units of the black female, of the pro-black female black male community back in 2019 is a foreign concept to me. It should have been, because there were very few of us who even knew to attack these niggas. As over here, possessing a passport is a fundamental tenet of black people, period. As I've stated before, in the UK, as a black man, not having a passport will be looked at as very strange and frowned upon. This is why I say, like, dissociate with African. As far back as my mama and my dad have been able, even using the best technology on DNA, Ancestry.com, where are the Africans at? Where the fuck is them Africans? Because when I get to the 1800s and 1700s, it shows me a distinction between black and my experience and those niggas. Because I was under the perception that if I looked back at my records, I would find that my grandfather had a baby with my grandmother when she was 12 years old. But when I looked at the records, that's not what the information said. So maybe I was wrong, or maybe the lie. Maybe we can't even understand or appreciate true history and how that correlates. But what I'm saying, it doesn't seem to be in our best interest or in our tradition to accept such, not without a fight at least. Somebody ought to be ready to lose some teeth over some shit like that. Yes, they can say it online with perfect protection and autonomy. But in today's modern technology, niggas know how to pull up an IP address. They know how to tap on the front door. They do it all the time when they want to sell you something. Hey, I noticed you don't have solar panels. Did you know that there's tax incentives? Are you the homeowner? And in just that time, they could have snatched a size 6 right the fuck up off that porch. When they sit down and start looking at, well, what should we do in our school zones as a community? They'll come together and they'll organize and they'll have a little closed door meeting, then an open door meeting, and a closed door meeting, then an open door meeting. And we're seeing the same thing happen in social media. SYSBM is all about honesty and self-improvement. We proved that that was a lie. But this is yet another reason why the SYSBM Brotherhood rejects the modern day westernized black female and recognizes that we cannot mesh together with her. The current philosophy of the black woman in 2019 and beyond is to blame black men for everything that goes wrong in their eyes, yet take accountability for. I hate having to repeat this shit. Absolutely nothing. As they shift accountability for sexual crimes in America onto the black woman. Oh, she got pregnant, it's her fault. The courts say this woman was raped. They can find semen. And yet, you have niggas that'll be like, nope, what dress did she have on? Women be asking for it because of the weaves they're wearing. That's their rhetoric. 7, that they staunchly reject feminism, homosexuality, LGBTQP. We proved is a lie because he got up there himself and said, LGBTQ community, you are on the clock. He said, we do not support such lifestyles that are decadent. How do you say decadent when you're talking about that passport travel gang? So you ain't got it good here, but you traveling. We do not support lifestyles that are degenerate. You didn't even know what that word meant until you were first approached by the Gray Faulkner Initiative members, or people who promote the Gray Faulkner Initiative, however they call themselves. If you did not support dysfunction, then that child support would never have been an issue. The only reason they say they don't support what's reprehensible is because they think that the age of consent is appropriate when you get to places like, Dominican Republic. I still can't say that word, so I'm going to skip it. They can consider what's abominable because they don't have values that are deeply rooted in the American value, unless they're telling me that the American tradition is as they espouse it to be. I'm not convinced. And now when you start seeing the rest of this shit, like there is no way that anyone should have taken them too serious. When they say, though, they'll have no problems following the lead of 12 Gauge Mike, Field Mouse, Cheddar Boy, Mincy, Shorter Fist or Shorty Fist, Spanner Boy, Spoonie. This just tells you that they're still jealous. There's a jealousy there where they're mad at Pookie and they're mad at the black woman. But they still haven't really said what they're for. 8. As stated before, the original founder of the SYSBM movement is this dude. He was the one who began blowing that trumpet around 8 years ago. And although he doesn't like to take the credit surrounding the movement and its growth, it cannot be denied that he is the originator, creator, and foundational pillar of the philosophy and the lifestyle attached. For those who thought I was the one, that this is what they believe in, that it's a philosophy, that they have lifestyle coaches that they were grooming young men in these principles of. 9, SYSBM is all about structure, family building, and leaving a legacy behind. The modern day black witch, without transitioning, on the other hand, rejects the building of the family, even though the black woman and her single kids are sitting here like the absentee father rate is high. These black men said, who? The modern day black witch. Now, if you go to Kevin Samuels and you look at his catalog of content, you will directly see the correlation that you see on your screen, and you probably would still defend B.E.T's decision to celebrate that nigga. I said, fuck that nigga and his death. And fuck you if you think that I'm wrong for saying fuck that nigga when he died. I don't celebrate that nigga Hitler. And if you put a mustache on a black woman and try to make that some type of symbolism, I'm going to tell you, well, fuck symbolism. You have an entire male network of degenerate black men who you may align more closely to with when it comes to philosophies. Here are their philosophies. Which of these do you not agree with? Because when they start talking about the modern day black witch, it's another 5. Excuse me. I almost turned into a real intellectual asshole. 5-letter word, starts with W. By depriving her of her humanity or her womanness, they can change it out and call her a witch and make Salem witchcraft a problem. But I know black women who believe in the Orishas, whether I believe in it or not. I know black women who are standing right there at the valley looking at Mammy Mountain, hoping that they might land them a good black man, assuming that he did not fall or follow any of these philosophies. These lifestyle coaches, these dating coaches, these social media, small YouTube, black YouTube, social media, black YouTube, social media, black YouTube. We were not able to actually protect that woman, Cynthia G, whose life was snatched out of Facebook. And as many black men could work for Google or Facebook, let's say, none of those black men would be willing to risk their corporate job to punch Mark Zuckerberg in the mouth for not affording black parents the opportunity to protect our children from pedophiles. And even if the federal government found out that there was hate speech targeting a particular sector of Facebook, the best they would say is, well, if you find it reported and we'll take it down. And then they started banning people. And the woman that they banned was Cynthia G. I don't know if Facebook banned her, but I looked on change.org and saw these same black men putting forth a petition for her channel to be taken down. And so they rally behind it to the point where Kevin Samuels had a whole community and crowd where they would send him hundreds of dollars per minute, my nigga. Hundreds of dollars per minute at his peak viewership. Tens of thousands, including Black women, standing in the valley looking at Mammy Mountain, wondering whether or not they were going to support it. And they fell for the biggest plot twist of all. He was positioning the rhetoric or the theology, the dogma of some of the worst kind of violent dogs you could ever imagine. Those who would prey on children. Even a Rottweiler is trained or domestically, naturally. When you see Rottweilers, they are protective of children. I don't know what kind of trauma caused these men to be that way. And I don't have the educated degree to diagnose the pathology and the psychology of Black men who would take it down to the size 6 and make that the only priority in the world as long as it's not mixed with Black. Hello. And that it would take the federal government to say, hold on, after they changed their website to remove the little Mongoloid Asian who looked like a juvenile and replace it with a white woman. Hello. Yes, once again, that King Kong Negro image is resurfacing. It's not just a Marvel comic, and it's not just a postcard from the 1900s of a big brute ape going on attack and rampage of the white woman. And now the alarms can be raised, and the federal government does have a methodology to where they can solve all of our problems if they're willing to take action. It's not going to be through some reparation study that they find the solution through government, though. They don't need to study the shit. The numbers show you that it's underreported, that the real threat is somewhat of a household to household issue, not per capita issue. But when they get to 9 after celebrating who their original founder is, they say SYSBM is all about structure, family building, leaving a legacy behind. If they don't have boys, then they won't be replicating that intergenerational trauma of a legacy that rejects Black women. And so we've rooted out the hatred. And we would have asked for the very same thing if we felt like it was white supremacy asking for the destruction of Black women. Why is it okay when the Black man does it? Hello? Oops. Oh, I must fall into this category here. They got a number for niggas like me. They got a tenet for niggas like me. We not supposed to get along. We not supposed to agree. They got tenets for niggas like me. There it is, tenet 5. As I've stated before, as a Black man who lives in the UK, fuck you. That's why we got issues, nigga, and your queen died. The universal energy just struck again. The attack on passport holding Black men from the passport and dick policing units of the pro-Black female Black male community. I would have just said the empowerment community. It makes it real simple. The empowerment community wants the protection of Black women. Why is that a problem? Why is this something that even seems to be negotiable? We got to just wait for the crime to happen. It's stupid. That's not self-defense. If the crime is in the household, then why would you tell the household to have more guns in it? Why would you tell the household or teach the household Second Amendment constitutional rights if the threat is actually within that household? Is there any data that would support that teaching a Black woman gun ownership and concealed carry is a passport to safety if she hasn't removed the threat looking in the mirror that she looks in every morning? And so many people did say, no, it's up to the Black woman to remove that threat from her own life at her own time, which is why 4 or 5 years later, we can still show you the same, or we could show you brand new results every day of Black women who are experiencing Black femicide. They were absolutely wrong for removing Black femicide from Instagram. If we saw Mark Zuckerberg, we would be the ones to go to jail, but they would tell us that we're supposed to be celebrating mental health and suicide prevention as a nation. Nah, man, let Mark Zuckerberg run over there with them Mongolians and that Asian woman, or tell that philanthropical Asian woman to stop co-opting the race argument. That is for the protection of Black women and children. They are the most vulnerable and the most at risk, and we shouldn't have to use Google Analytics and search algorithms and sentiment analysis to tell you that. At some point, they're going to have to disclose what their hate speech report. And when they uncover that hate speech report, it's only going to say the same thing that we told you why we don't need a study of it. We were telling you that before you banned us. Just like Black Femicide was telling them and the women there, warning them of the threat. These little reminders may not be important until they have a Memphis situation where the nigga is mad and live on Facebook walking around with his gun out threatening to kill people. And you have all the technology in the world under the federal government to zoom in and see every active Facebook in that entire community surrounding him and put your Amber Alert directly into the telecommunications. When they have that power and authority and Mark Zuckerberg says, nah, let's see if he kill a bitch first. That hoe had it coming. Look what she wearing, dog. She got a weave on. Watch this. This is my favorite part. My favorite part is when that nigga take his teeth out. My favorite part is when you know he get mad because you see that checkmark vein pop in his forehead when they're willing to embarrass themselves on Facebook. No, it's not the embarrassment of the Black male image. The Black women that were in his vicinity that become targets, that's what the Asian women were looking to co-opt in Atlanta. So when the federal government says they cracking down, and then you see them, the Manosphere, have their little conference in Atlanta, and a Black woman gets the hold of the leadership in policing, that Black woman looks to her vice president, and her vice president is what they consider an Asian African hybrid mix. Indian woman. Oh, the Indian. Oh, the Indian that gave us the mighty zero. The Indian that helped these white people move into 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, was able to get us to back up and slow down just a little bit. Because there was a woman in Atlanta who said, well, I'm going to start using the RICO on all you niggas until you niggas start talking. Brother Moses said, nah, man, look, here go the niggas right here. Look, this nigga, he left. He didn't want to have shit to do with that pedophile shit. But if you want to know which Black men are pushing this pedophile agenda online on social media, not Tyler Perry in his dress, not the celebrity, but the everyday men. Oh, shit. Well, Oshay put that nigga Edward Andersen funny looking ass up there. Edward Andersen was the one who gave these niggas their SYSBM escape route, where they came together and developed the networks where they emphasize, you better have some women if we're coming. But the side that says, look, man, human trafficking, international sex trafficking and all of that shit is crime. That shit is worse than the Pookie. The Pookie just wanted to get high. We could talk about legalizing marijuana all we want in free states and how much for medicine. You know, they try to argue in Florida. They was like, what they say, 2.5 ounces of smokable marijuana every 35 days. Now, I don't know if that's a lot, but if you break it down mathematically, it looks like a little 3.5 grams. Now, this is fascinating too to me, though. So, like, always been fascinated with this, the cannabis business. But it's like a little clue, but it essentially comes down to like a 3.5. You know what I'm saying? Like 19 of them bitches, which is so like one every 2 days. Like they've measured how to quantify the impact of THC for things like, you know, panic attacks and those other like they're measuring it. I don't know if the doctors are actually conclusive and ready to go, but I'll just say the federal government even gets it wrong sometimes. The federal government may have only asked for all of the records of the police officers who had been oath keepers. The federal government may have only wanted the people who marched on the Capitol on July 6th and said these people have violated domestic terrorism and we at least wanted them to have their day in court. Listen, this is what they actually did. And so the federal government may have got it wrong in their targeting when they thought that, you know, if we just say white supremacy and now we go after the Proud Boys. Yeah. The B1 network may have gotten it wrong when it was like, okay, damn, who is this nigga? And we said, okay, let's just go after the SYSBM Tenets. But yeah, there are MGTOW, men going their own way, who do it. There was Ibmore, who was like, God damn, let's tell you about this nigga. That's what the content unlock is. And then all of these SYSBM dudes who are organized and they operate on YouTube. And do you think YouTube is going to tell you who they are? For one, YouTube won't block them. You can put the little red thing up there all you want, but the classic argument is they can just make another email, which allows them to make another YouTube. You can't protect your children from that. The answer is no. The protections don't exist. The protection that they wanted to affirm was free speech. So American journalism and American journalists are not protected. What they would say, fake news, fake news. We would say, no, the real news was this little girl, this baby died. But some of the situations or the circumstances around her death made it inappropriate for us to share her death story. And so if you shared the death story, that's what got the censor, that's got censorship. That was what was sensitive. But the men who were advocating and teaching and preaching and indoctrinating the destruction of Black women and girls, no, they get the free pass. So unless you're telling me that that is what American is, man, I stand to argue against it. I think in America, Black American men, we come from a different tradition set. And show me the fucking African. I say you might find a European before you find an African in some of these African American DNA. But that it's a foreign concept, the way that they would want to sexualize the woman on and project that onto the girl. I just don't see that as Black culture. Once we got the option of choosing, like I find Ancestry.com, you can find them and look. The way that they even establish the records be by birth and death records if they can find them. Now, what's the caveat to that? Birth, if born in a hospital by any chance, happens from a mother. The father is likely not even to be there. And if he didn't even sign the record, then there was no record. So if you go before slavery, that property wasn't getting signed unless you have that record from a malevolent white person. Or would that be benevolent? Like ABL, the conservative Republican Turning Point in America person says. He says the Klan brought them Christmas presents. So in that sense, you wouldn't just want to attack the Klan in a general sense. You wouldn't want to keep saying white supremacy, white supremacy. You would want to say, no, don't look at IPMOR, the acronym in itself. Don't look at that and make anybody who may understand this philosophy and anybody who associates with the philosophy. Don't do that when you can find somebody specifically espousing this rhetoric in real time. Advising like a lifestyle coach where to travel to, where the age of consent. I know you're tired of me hearing me say it, which is why everything needs to be reformed. They don't want those words. I would be flagged if I said the word rape. I would be flagged if I said pedophilia. I'm wrong for saying, nah, man, we ain't with that shit. We ain't with that shit. That is not something that you're going to associate on the Black man or the Black woman. And if there are enablers who are allowing that to happen, she could be 60 years old. She's going to have to deal with that on her conscience. I'm going to just say mammy. And if it's a Black man who's enabling it, I'm going to put the U on it and call it Mummy Mountain. Because we've been dealing with the issue of the woman and the respect of woman since Egypt, that pyramid or Ma'at. There was supposed to have been a balance. That balance is not able to be achieved if we keep looking at it with this dichotomous lens that says, well, equality can be measured in a system of law. And in a system of law, here's the things that we're going to put on the scale. You put them in a courtroom and they in a courtroom as the person who committed the act they want to get off, and they in the courtroom they in the courtroom are advocating to be on the jury, saying don't even care what the evidence is. If it's a black man innocent, or if it's involved sexual, they don't even say if it's a black man innocent, because that would be pro-black. Stupid and unvaluable. I don't find the value in that. If that nigga did that shit, fuck him. And so here we have this conundrum where it's now you're in the court, and if there is a nigga on the jury, would you want that nigga to listen to the evidence, or would you and be impartial, or would you want that black man, if this was a case and the woman has allegations of sexual assault, would you want that black man to immediately say, I don't care if they have sperm, in the court of law, not guilty? Or would you want them to be impartial? Would you want it not to even matter if it was black, white, yellow, green, or whatever? If it came to protection of children, it should have been off limits. If you're on that one, then now you're really aligned. And you can understand why I would rather the 999 hate me and stand with the one than to stand with the one that is the 999 that is this and believe this. And they say, oh, I wasn't accepted. So they have a place. They have words for us. The pro-black female black male community. I would have just said the empowerment community. The black men who actually don't believe that we don't have a responsibility in the black community, that we do have a role to play, that when it comes to politics, we should have value-based politics, that when it comes to the woman's rights, she has every right even to use the political process, that the Supreme Court justice was wrong for saying that she doesn't have protections, and that if she has protections, then the black man has protections, that Dred Scott, that 3/5 of man, no, black man is not 3/5 of man. He's a full man and has all rights, but that is gender-based legislation. If the black man is not a slave and not the white man's property, if the black man is his own man, then the black man has every right. And if the black man does have every right, then there is gender legislation. Gender legislation then means that the black woman also has rights. And the black woman has every right to contract with that same federal government. And that same contract then is for the protection of her from harm. So the enemy gets to walk around and pick its victims. But if you put your hands on anybody who's building these pro-pedophilia spaces, you are going to prison. I'm going to tell you that right now unequivocally. If there is a woman who wants to have an abortion and there's a man who is against abortion and he puts his hands on that woman, he's going to jail, we would hope, but he's going to get let out. You would hope that there is somebody who would be willing to be the protection for that woman if she's going to make that decision. And that man who gets mad at her for saying, oh, she's going to make a decision. And this nigga is not even her baby father, but this nigga is the nigga responsible for her rape. And instead of not being able to protect her before the rape, they say she can't even walk to get that demon child aborted out of her. But that the next generation and 1,000 generations have to come through her womb, that it's not her right to say no to that man's seed. And that if he tries to chase her to the motherfucking hospital, the only doctor, even if it's out of state, Lovin' v. Virginia, even if it's in a whole nother fucking state she runs from this motherfucker, if he tries to chase her and follow her there and commit an act of violence, if there was any man there to protect her physically, that man would be the man who goes to jail, not the man who was attacking the rapist who was there to attack her. And we live in social media with a man who said, nah, man, we need to stop them from attacking them. They can have their picket signs all they want. They can have their pity parties. But the minute it turns into them wanting to attack black women and children, and now we found out that it was sexual violence that they were encouraging with their travel passport bros, man, fuck you and fuck them. Stop protecting them and stop coddling them niggas. They got it coming at some point. If they wanted to attack the woman who was going to go get an abortion, you ought to let a nigga step in and beat that nigga ass with no penalty. These motherfuckers walking around talking about purges, and when shit hits the fan, they want to abandon the black woman as if all violence in the community happened. Now imagine this from the same lens that you look at the French as a civilization, or that Marcus Garvey looked at Napoleon as he traversed those white men across continents, across those boats that did work, that did not sink. As he traversed the globe with those white men killing and stealing and raping every fucking thing, black women not excluded. So as he goes on this rape and rampage that does hit American soil, America, its federal government was not able to protect. In fact, it encourages it to this day. To this day. You fucking Chicken George want to talk about roots as a form of slavery, but not the breeding that BGS Itmore was referring to. But they're having a conversation from the lens of, oh, the black woman wanted it. And we're the ones pushing back and saying rape is rape. But you put me on a platform like I'm the nigga that's bad. That's why I get 15. That's why I get banned. And that's the same reason that I had to do the plot twist, because that's what they did to Cynthia G. The trifecta was supposed to have been the black Womansphere, but instead of accepting her role to fight against that, she wants to be reconciliatory. Now, I don't know what trauma she may have experienced, although there are those social media speculations and rumors. But whatever this woman has experienced must be pretty deep. If she can find in her compassion, her compass, because I know that natural woman energy is something fierce. But if she's saying it's time to come together, then okay. But the world is saying something different. I don't think you're backing up and rewinding from the levels of energy that have been released. Not at this point. Their queen died, you UK motherfucker. Your white queen is dead. And she did not sign our reparations, so fuck you if you have a problem with that. Too soon? Because when Kevin Samuels died, the black man died, it wasn't too soon to tell him that he was pushing rapey language, just like it wasn't too soon for her to tell her white men to stand down and stop raping. But today the conversation is about the black conservatives and how they view violence in Chicago. And today, the conversation is also about black women who would go to the courthouse and demand that Tiffany Haddish be brought to justice for what she did to that child. Oh, if you don't know it, then you just got to follow the stories. But I'm just telling you, the universal energy was bigger than me. I didn't even have content for the plot twist. And in fact, I thought Plot Twist 3 was going to be about the introduction, so I could go on and get that shit out. What they do to you, nigga, they had you looking a little worried. Like, people were really calling me like, Moses, are you okay? They had you a little shook. What's going on? And so build up to, oh, this is who gonna check me, boo energy that I received. But I could also show you that the same who gonna check me, boo energy also said, oh, Brother Moses is cool. It wasn't like that. They can go back in 3 months and they can have they hashing out. They go back in years. Well, I don't know at this point, because I don't know how accepting they could be. But once again, I told you the spirit of reconciliation goes back and forth. It flips and it flops. The mission is still a go though. On my end, it's about mental health, as they said, suicide prevention. It's about acknowledging those colors. And in this plot twist, it's about just giving you the facts. Here's your screenshot. I don't think that they'll use any of these, though. I don't think that they'll put Kevin Samuels' face on here the same way that those 10,000 people who viewed the image of me with my tooth out, because that's where it kills them. That's the comedy. Kevin Hart is the comedian, but when I took my tooth out, that's the part that gets them, just like they've been waiting to see if she would take her weave off. Is it a weave? Is it a wig under there? Does she have natural hair? Is she bald? They don't know. They just waiting on that next character drop. Umar Johnson just so happened to bite that carrot. He was waiting. They get to 11. They get to 12. They start talking about mental and physical and spiritual health. I tell you that if you want to go through it, I don't want this trauma to be back in me. But the philosophies and shit, they go in. The right ideas to have. SYSBM, unlike the black community, holds all people to account for their wrongdoings. We will apply blame and culpability wherever it is due. We do not excuse Black women for their transgressions, nor do we continually blame the white man for anything and everything wrong in Black society. We do not condone nor accept reprobate and degenerate behavior from any group. This most definitely would include Black women. You have no vested authority here over Black women. I'm telling Black women to tell y'all deuces. The women now do have a right, though, to protection from niggas like you. The SYSBM Knights. Babylon via their worship and obedience to the state. Therefore, they have now become government property, and thus it's the state's job as their new leaders and owners to protect them, not ours. No, the state's job is to stop protecting yours because they're protecting you now. SYSBM members are not dick police officers, unlike the pro-Black. No, the federal government should send in the real officers with the actual real guns and the badges and see if you niggas are really suicidal, if you want to be suicide by cop. It would save the taxpayer dollars a hell of a lot of money. Because when the taxpayers put together their money to get like a anti-human trafficking task force in Chicago, and they cracked down in Chicago, in Cook County, and they found the nigga that was promoting juvenile prostitution on, when their founder was creating this space. You see what I'm talking about? When they were talking about the evidence of Black female skullduggery, we were finding the evidence of Black men who were finding that shit funny. Man, that back page shit wasn't funny. That was my sister then, nigga. If that's the case, when I find that nigga, that was my sister. That's how I'm supposed to feel about it, or so I thought. But they tell me I'm wrong for feeling the way that I did about it. Like, nigga, hell no. How you gonna tell me that I shouldn't think this nigga's like Big Bro when y'all Big Broing this motherfucker human trafficker? I thought the entire world was against human trafficking. But in public and in his personal life, this dude is an advocate for human trafficking. And I don't care what this woman says if she's about social workers and strippers and all of that shit. When you want to unite sex workers and with that motherfucker here with juvenile prostitution, that's where I have a problem. That network can't grow that way. Hold on, step up. Somebody say something again. It took you long enough to say it the first time, nigga, and by your silence, there are some Black women who would want to hold that nigga complicit. There's some Black women who will be like, nigga, and wasn't your homeboy the nigga that kind of pulled these niggas out? Nigga, you ain't never said nothing about your homeboy pulling it out? And then there are other videos as we walk down this plot twist where you might see me supporting my homeboy. And today, yeah, this message is gonna hurt. I still support them niggas fulfilling the mission of Marcus Garvey. I support them being passport bros and getting the fuck out of America. We know that they only want a size 6. We know that that means they believe in pedophilia. And unfortunately, that part of Africa should not have made it to America. We don't want that in our community. Fuck you if you think they should be protected. America says put them on a registry and a list. And that registry and list and its economic impacts puts them around Black women and Black children in the actual Black community. Fuck that. Abraham Lincoln, them motherfuckers, deuce they ass with Loving versus Virginia to wherever it is, whatever economy or society they want to go to, where their value sets align. Now, Moses, that's harsh. Don't you believe in the protection of those little girls? What happens when those men get over there? They're the ones acting like they're a fucking military. Let the military of that country figure out what to do with a military that wants to invade and rape. But the same way America or the Native Indians or Native Americans, the Black, the indigenous, the Seminole tribes, the Carib people, the Jews, the Palestinians, the gosh damn you, who is the other ones? Poland and Ukrainians and who got ran up on? Haile Selassie, Jamaicans. Regardless of who's the invading force, if they're coming to rape your women and your children, the only and it's domestic, nigga, it should have been an outrage. But they're coming to rape your women and they told you that, and your children, and there's nothing that you think the men gonna do about it. SYSBM does not obligate Black men to swear allegiance to the lifestyle. There is nowhere you have to sign your name in blood. Free-thinking Black men are free to take the SYSBM philosophy and tailor it to their personal needs according to their own lives. The Bible doesn't actually believe you should pray to God if you're a woman. The Bible believes that men should pray to God and that women should pray to be submissive to their husband. And that thinking has guided the view of equality in America for a long time. It's guided the political process and the means of, well, when it comes to equity or just even physical presence, the thought leadership inside of the American or the westernized society has been guided by white men. Oh, but in the household, that was supposed to have been a sacred and protected space. And if the household could be protected and you had a surplus of value and virtue, then you were able to take your protection outside of your own household and extend it to your neighbors. And that's how communities could be formed. So you take the dysfunction from that and you file them in their military ranks as they've organized themselves to be without a designated head, although they'll tell you who the founder is. And I can show you who their social media person was. He made it to B.E.T with his death. We can only show you the facts. That I am on 19. SYSBM practitioners are not cleanup men. We refuse to accept the current decadent and degenerate single mother philosophy being pushed by Black women within Black society. We will not be returning to the so-called community to clean up anybody's mess, i.e. date and wife up single Black mothers. We have high standards. Single motherhood and the janky fruits thereof are totally unacceptable. We solidly practice and believe that a man should start his own family tree legacy from scratch, nigga. Not take on board the children of another while they go to nest under the nutsack of another man's daughter and community. If she's not Black, she came from a white man's balls. So where are you going if not but to scroll back up and to see that that's what exactly you said? Where are you going? When you leaving were legitimate responses from the women in the chat. SYSBM is all about honesty. So we want you to be honest. And you said you're going to hold them accountable. Now you talking doomsday. That seemed like it's an emergency. Why you taking so long if it's an emergency? Nigga, all I should have saw was the outline figurine of smoke in the wall when you hit it so hard when you mentioned Taz. They should have been in Madagascar or Angola some fucking where. Ritualistic, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual abuse they suffered at the hands of Black women. Oh, that's 12. When they said, for me personally, SYSBM is all about the improvement of one's mental, physical, and spiritual health. Having suffered for years at the hands of malevolent Black female, it is extremely important for SYSBM practicing. So you don't have to sign in blood, but it is extremely important for SYSBM practicing. You have to practice. It's not a religion, but it does require practicing once you get to 12. It's not a practicing religion, but they're going to tell you about some of this ritualistic stuff. But they said it's necessary to think like them and to be free in your thinking, which means be free from saying Black men should be with Black women. It just seems natural. When they get to China, they're going to see that. Sorry, not sorry. Everywhere they get to, they're going to see the homogeny is still there. Upwards of 90, 99% in some places, 98, 99, until you start getting down into the weeds. Like if you want to say, I went to Europe and I saw a European, it's one thing. It's a different thing to say a Polish woman. Honestly, I don't even know how to get that deep. Yeah. That's why I just call them Mongoloids and leave it at that. But that's neither here nor there. Ritualistic, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual abuse they've suffered at the hands of Black women. If you don't get these niggas out of here, you're going to run up the cost of private practice for mental health. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. And these niggas are here to blame it on the Black woman. I'm not. The Black woman should give niggas nightmares because niggas wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. When it comes to spiritual health, I may not understand it all, but I do know that there are some Black women who believe in that Orisha. They believe in spirits. They believe in dark energy. They believe that their ancestors who have long since died should be venerated. When I say fuck Kevin Samuels, he's dead. When I said the queen is dead, some people, they have that necromancy in their tool belt. Necromancy, it's a part of their belief system that they believe that there is a higher invested energy in dead people. And so if you say anything about a Marcus Garvey to a Pan-Africanist Garveyite, they'll be ready to punch you in the mouth. But in social media, you can say anything you want about the Black woman, and that's going to get you up on BET right there. That's why a Black man who's over 6 foot tall would put on a dress and play a big Black grandmother, and the world would love it. But we can't have a conversation about protecting Black girls. And if we can't talk about the protection of Black girls, then there's no way that we could talk about the protection of trans youth. And since we can't talk about trans youth, then they're going to have to stop talking to me about the transatlantic slave trade altogether. You have no respect of what a human being is in the first place. When you said human, you were going to discriminate against somebody who said, man, fuck all of that. They said a Black man ain't human. And because enough white men believed it, it was the law of the land. The age of consent argument allows states to determine whether or not the number of protection should be 17 years or 16. There's instances where, well, they were in high school together. Go to Texas, see what theirs are. I get repulsed at some of the stories I hear here in America, but then you'll start hearing about international stories where they have a different tradition and policy, where it's not considered. I'll let you see it again. This is why they want to travel. But if I tell you and I show you and you hear it and see it, hopefully it'll make sense, and then I won't have to tell you no more. I thought that before. But if they travel there, then it doesn't seem abominable. I got one for you. What was that shit called? What was it called? What was it called? It was a timepiece with a Black dude in it. It was like Elizabethan, but it was the same Chicken George looking dude. If I can remember it, I'll get you there. If I can remember it, I'll get you there. It's not a hive-minded philosophy. It is a must for you to retain your individual mindset as well as your own purpose. Why would I adopt any of your tenets if I want an individual mindset? Like, for real, like, to me, it got stupid. And because I dismissed it as stupid, I thought it was beneath me. But because the smart people are the people who, oh, no, bro, you did go to college. You did get your education. You're supposed to be the one, and you understand politics. You're supposed to be the one helping cultivate that thought or that social discussion around this concept. And if that's the case, then I shouldn't have just said, oh, you're dumb, and let that be the thing. We have high standards, single motherhood, and the janky fruits thereof are totally unacceptable. We solidly practice and believe that a man should start his own family tree legacy from scratch, not take on board the children of another. That's interesting. And what's deeper though, when Kevin Samuels adopted this philosophy and started telling Black women, this is what a high value man wants, they didn't make the correlation that when he was saying what a high value man wants, that he was referring to these CISPA men as the high value men. I could say that again like Umar Johnson, or I could tell you that this shit was 23 and they said spread it, and that they are across every platform, and that this is what's okay to spread. But Black femicide was taken off of Instagram. Now, if I click this and it goes to an Instagram, no, I don't want notifications. I'm glad they went to mine, nigga. I was finna flip. I think you bet not go to their shit. You bet not go to their shit. Now, let me see if the rumor is true. They got Black Femicide UK. And then they have 2. And then they have Help Stop Black Femicide. Black Femicide USA. They can't stop the hashtag though. I mean, they could technically. They could technically stop the hashtag. I'm on the list though. First of all, I'm a target. I'm supposed to be a target for them. They said Black men who would want to step in and intervene and support the Black woman. Like, come on, man, don't kill that woman. We're the target. Just like feminists, Black women who propagate this message and show you Black femicide happening in America and the targeting of Black women and Black girls. Oh yes, but they will take this page down because it's like the exploited and missing children doing that. They don't want Black women focusing on that. Why are you focusing on Black women? You need to focus on all women. You need to focus on all women everywhere. Don't just focus on Black women. No. Because if you can't protect Black women, if you can't protect the kids, I tell you again, you can't protect the Black woman. Fuck these niggas. Fuck trying to coddle and protect these niggas. Uh-oh. They got a man that made it. He's on there. The Newman man, suspected of killing 6 people, knew his victims, the cops say. Mr. Ethiopian world. We have plenty of monsters in our community. A Newman man suspected of fatally shooting 6 people over a 48-hour span knew each of his victims, investigators said. Nicholas Nelson, 38, was arrested after witnesses saw a man gunned down inside the Eastgate apartment complex. By the following day, authorities linked Nelson to the deaths of 6 people, including 3 whose bodies were discovered inside the room of a Motel 6. Noonan Police Deputy Chief Mark Cooper told reporters during a news conference. Detectives said Coweta County has never had so many homicides in such rapid succession. That was November 10th, 2020, and even though it seems like an Indian or a Muslim or somebody like that, Middle Easterner, tried to get the story out there. And even though a Black woman tried to re-push the story out there, you won't get this. No. Did you see that? You saw 365 posts. That's Black femicide. Uh-oh, don't do it. Stop. Stop right there. Don't you do it. Don't put Kevin Samuels in there, dude. Don't do it. Damn. Protect Kevin Samuels. 1.2 million followers. Black femicide. 4 posts. 4 likes. Kevin Samuels, well, that nigga would get more publicity as a dead man than the dead Black woman who the channel would get taken down for sharing her story on. Let's see this one. Kevin Samuels, women, age 25 to 37, single, no boyfriend, childless. Email all information to info@byKevinSamuels. And you wouldn't see it if I showed you that they had their thing in Atlanta, and that of course Atlanta would have to appoint a black woman who would say, if you bring that shit into Fulton County, I'm hitting your ass with the RICO. And of course they wouldn't want that black woman to get away with hitting those black gangsters and thugs with the RICO, not the young thug. Don't hit the young thugger with the RICO. Fuck that nigga, man. They having focus groups on black women and your relationship with the mongoloid and the white. They focusing on how they could target you better. But when they focus on you, it's not the black woman that we can see in data. No, they want a specific type of black woman. They said age 25 to 37, single, no boyfriend, and childless. I'm showing you from theirs so that if I have to go into a plot twist 5, you would already know why I'm bringing out information about single black women aged 25 to 37. No, but what I'm saying is black women are divorcing, and the rate of abortion for black women, I'd have smacked this nigga too talking about my wife. This nigga says, Chris Rock once famously said in his stand-up act, men are only as faithful as their options. Successful men cheat. Either you will deal with it or not. Thoughts? He just wanted to get the conversation going so people could say, yeah, cheating is good, because polyandrous relationships, they occur just like polygyny is just a thing, I guess. I don't know about all that shit. Let a polyandrous tell you. And if that polyandrous finally gets caught by the police for doing some shit with some underage or suspected shit with an underage person, let him throw his ass in jail. In fact, we can save the taxpayers some dollars. There's got to be a nigga mad enough to go shoot him in the mouth. Why shoot the black women? No, they being trained and groomed for this shit. They consider themselves soldiers at this point, warriors, knights even. And they consider the women the witches and the sirens. So just because the black woman may not be your bullseye or your target does not mean she's not being viewed as a threat by an armed, what the federal government would identify then as a domestic terrorist group. But y'all praise this goof-ass nigga because he's tall? I'm going to just say because he's tall so I can sound bitter about something. They'll tell you that the issue was once you started getting there, you realized that it was a whole bunch of people. Whole bunch. And when they said they don't praise degeneracy, it's only because they no longer consider sexual deviancy degeneracy. They consider sexual tourism a positive thing. They don't consider themselves on any throne of doing anything, building and establishing, or we would have saw it. Maybe there was something I missed. I tried to read as much as I could out loud without freaking, it's Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Month. So we want to keep that top of mind as well. Because all of this should drive a motherfucker crazy. There is no way that you could deal with this reality and accept this. This motherfucker said we have high standards, single motherhood, and the janky fruits thereof. And you praise and worship Kevin Samuels, who left his daughter out there with a single mother. How, nigga? If the man dies and his daughter was like, that nigga did me foul, but you praise him, then these tenets don't align. It wasn't the malevolent black female. It wasn't extremely important for you to practice any of this. It was important for you to be a decent human being. And because you decided you didn't want to, I would be in full support of them hitting your stupid ass with the RICO. Leave and don't come back. Marcus Garvey was not allowed to come back. These passport Pan-African link up with somebody in China, the Dominican Republic, or Africa should have less than 30 days to leave before the RICO rolls out. What is our federal government waiting for when it comes to the protection of Black women and children? And if Mark Zuckerberg, the private business interest, won't do it, and if the Google and Wozniak and the little Indian Hindu-looking dude, if they won't do it, then at least let us get the satisfaction of watching a real Pookie and Ray Ray punch one of these motherfuckers in the mouth every once in a while. Because it's either that or advocate for the Second Amendment. And I'm B1 Brother Moses. That's all I got. So I'm out.